avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Welcome to the Michael Rivero What Really Happened radio program.
Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, March 18th, 2021. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. And we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. As usual, we are going to do an hour of news followed by an hour of phone calls. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble. So let's get right on into it. It looks like the old saying, March comes in like a lion and goes out like a lamb, may not work this year because we're pretty much getting into the last week of March and it's still rowdy out there. As you know, we had this winter storm that came in over the Rockies and hit Colorado, and now it's across the southern United States. We got a little rain and thunder here, but it really hit hard south of us with tornadoes and heavy winds across 5 states, and now it's over in Georgia and the Carolinas. And they're saying this tornado outbreak is possibly the largest since 2011. So it is really out there. They've issued a level 5 high-risk warning of severe tornado outbreaks across the southeast. So if you're in that part of the country, keep a weather eye out, keep your evac kit handy, and just stay safe. Okay, there's a big story that is going on, and already it is being mutated for political purposes, and it has to do with that Atlanta shooting spree in these massage parlors that killed 8 people, including 6 Asian women. Now, the killer himself has said that he was a sex addict, and he was targeting these massage parlors because they were tempting him to do more of whatever it is that they do inside these massage parlors. So they're out there, and already they're trying to skew this as a racially motivated incident, even though the killer himself is saying, no, it had nothing to do with it, and there are 2 people who were killed. They are not saying what their ethnicity is. The focus is totally on the 6 Asian women, and Asians do tend to be, shall we say, overrepresented in that line of work. And right now, according to this story from The Guardian, the FBI is under pressure to tackle anti-Asian hate crimes in the wake of this shooting. They're trying to take this away from, this insane sex addict going wacko and say, oh, it's a racial issue. It's, racism bad. And so there's already been these Stop Asian Hate marches taking place across the U.S. Vigils are being held, so they're pounding this for their own political agenda. Now, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms says that hate crime charges could be appropriate for the shooter who killed 8 people, including the 6 Asian women, in the massage parlor spree. And again, they are not identifying the ethnicity of the other 2 people who were killed. There's obviously, they're trying to reframe this away from the sex addict and, going insane to being a racially motivated attack. Now, amazingly enough, the gunman, this 21-year-old who went on this 3-hour rampage across all these massage parlors, was actually turned into authorities by his own parents, who saw surveillance photos of him, on the TV news. And they said, "Oh, that's our son." And they called the cops and said, "This is who you're looking for." And probably by doing that, stopped more of the rampage, because the shooter said that he was definitely going to continue hitting places, dealing with the adult business, to put it delicately here. And of course, Obama is already out there calling for greater gun control because of the Atlanta shooting. And we're at a point here where the facts aren't even really known. We don't know if the gun was legally owned or bought off the street. But already they're trying to just exploit this for their own political agenda, as we have seen them do so many times before. Righty, getting on over to our politics, we are seeing more and more indications that Kamala Harris is actually fulfilling the duties of the office of the President of the United States of America. She has had several phone calls with world leaders, with which Joe Biden was not a party to, and now she has hosted the Prime Minister of Ireland for a bilateral meeting, during which America was trashed as a violent and racist country. Interesting timing for that Atlanta shooting. House Republicans have voted to lift the ban on earmarks, which would allow lawmakers to stuff taxpayer bills with pork projects for their home states. And I think that's really a bad idea. And in the blueprint for the New America, all bills before Congress will serve one purpose only. If you have something else you want to do, it's a separate bill and it gets voted on separately. But every time there's a must-pass bill, like the recent coronavirus assistance bill, it gets loaded up with all kinds of pork barrel projects, and money gets spent for things completely unrelated to the primary purpose. House Democrats, pardon me, are looking at ejecting the Republican winner of a contested race over in Iowa. They're dismissing comparisons to Trump's efforts to overturn the election. So that's exactly what they're trying to do, is overturn the results of the election. Now, Maryland Democratic Representative Jamie Raskin, who led the House's impeachment case against Trump after the insurrection, said the bar for overturning the House election has the same high standard invoked in the presidential race. He said the challenger, Iowa Democrat Rita Hart, has the statutory burden of proof to sustain. And they're in an awkward place, because if they're able to get auditing and examination of the voting machines and recounts, it's going to underscore the fact that Trump's efforts to get exactly the same thing were stymied by the Supreme Court and ridiculed by the corporate legacy media. Story coming on out of the Wall Street Journal saying that Biden is abandoning normalcy. And they're commenting about how Biden recently could not remember the name of the defense secretary who was standing right behind him, or even what the Pentagon is called. Described him as the guy who runs that outfit over there. And, but Biden still got nearly $2 trillion of long-term spending passed under the pretense of a COVID crisis, which is already fading. Now, that, of course, does not ease the economic burden. And I, for one, agree with these emergency checks going to ordinary American citizens who need the money, but a lot of that other pork that was in there, more than 90% of that bill went to other areas. We'll be talking about that in more detail a little bit later in the show. All right, over in Ohio, hillbilly elegy author J.D. Vance is confirming he's seriously considering a run for the Senate in Ohio. And he's a Trump-aligned populist. He's a conservative. And asked about which issues need to be addressed by the GOP, Vance identified immigration, America's trade policy, and the lack of a pro-family policy. And I would agree with all of those. Meanwhile, new polls are showing 75% of voters support voter ID laws. Now, the Democrats, of course, are determined to eliminate it. Back in 2016, in the run-up to that election, they were sending legal teams to state after state after state to overturn the voter ID laws because they stand in the way of illegal immigrants voting, even though illegal immigrants are not entitled to vote. Another article on the same topic, this is from uns.com. They took the polling on support for voter ID and they broke it down by subgroups. And interestingly enough, the lowest support for voter ID came from the Democrats, but it was still more than 50%. So this is definitely something that people think we need to have that back. Getting on over to corporate media, we talked about how the corporate legacy media, without Donald Trump to bash night after night after night, is sinking in the ratings. They're losing their viewers. CNN is losing 1 million viewers a night on average since Trump left office. It's down nearly half in the 24 to 54 age demographic, and that is a key demographic for advertisers. So that is big problems there. We're still talking about the Washington Compost finally having to come out and admit that they fabricated that story about Trump calling the election official down in Georgia and demanding that they find the fraud and how they'll be a national hero if they do. It was all basically fake news. And so there's an interesting little comment over an Investment Watch blog. Will Twitter and other social media now put a warning label on that story now that we know it's fake news? And I haven't seen that happen yet, but there we are. Let's get into the COVID-19. It's all kinds of stuff happening there. And American Airlines is in high dudgeon because John Kerry apparently boarded a flight in the first class section of the plane with a mask hanging from one ear, but did not bring it over to the other ear to cover his nose or mouth. Kerry is saying it was only momentary when the image was snapped, and says this is all a bunch of malarkey. But again, it does look like a lot of double standards out there, like we saw with Nancy Pelosi and her hair salon. Okay, we are seeing a lot of back and forth about AstraZeneca and whether or not it causes blood clots. And there's a story here from Station Gossip about how European Union leaders are getting ready to do another vaccine U-turn today when safety experts who backed AstraZeneca deliver their final verdict on the jab and say they were wrong to be holding it up over sporadic reports of blood clots, and they were sporadic. So the EU leaders are being forced into a humiliating climb down after Europe's medical experts confirm the AstraZeneca jab is not linked to blood clots. Now, the argument is still going back and forth. From ZeroHedge.com, there is a Norwegian doctor, Pal Andre Holm, who claims to have found the actual link between the AstraZeneca vaccine and rare blood clots. But the bottom line is that out of 11 million people who've received the AstraZeneca vaccine, only 5 people in Britain have come down with the blood clots. And so we saw already, we reported already earlier, how the United States was trying to bash competing vaccines that might cut into the profits of American vaccine makers. They were out there with a smear campaign to get Sputnik 5, and maybe they're doing exactly the same thing with the AstraZeneca, because that's, after all, a British company, and the vaccine companies want all the money to come to the American vaccine companies. So it's all about the Benjamins. Here in Indiana, a physical therapist, 28-year-old Haley Link Brinkmeyer, died after getting the mRNA Wuhan coronavirus vaccine just 2 days previously. And again, it is that mRNA shot that is of the greatest concern. So far, Claire and I haven't noticed anything negative from the Johnson & Johnson shot. But those mRNA shots, they do seem to have some problems out there. Story coming on out of Scoopy Web. The Oxford and Pfizer's COVID vaccines are proving to be more effective against the Brazilian variant of COVID than initially feared. So that's a little bit of good news, at least for Oxford and Pfizer. Out in California, a desperate Gavin Newsom is claiming that his harsh lockdown of California saved lives, and he got grilled by Meghan McCain on The View on this very subject, and you can almost smell the panic that's coming on out from all these leaders who just did these draconian lockdowns, and now it's looking like it really did not help and was completely unnecessary. Meanwhile, a lot of complaints are coming on out. This is from Domagood about how kids on spring breaks are partying maskless on Florida's beaches. And there is, of course, obviously a concern there. Actually, looking at photos of spring break, they're not only not wearing masks, they're not wearing pretty much anything else, especially the girls, which is a little side benefit to this whole story. Over in Spain, there's a little bit of anger going on because the Spaniards are under a travel ban. Meanwhile, German tourists are flocking to Mallorca for their last-minute Easter getaways to Spain's sun-kissed islands. And the Spaniards are very angry that the Germans can come and go like that. They themselves cannot. French authorities are warning that they have discovered a new COVID-19 mutation that cannot be detected with the PCR test. Now, we know the PCR test was never intended to be a diagnostic tool. It has a long history of both false positives and false negatives, but the French authorities are saying it's even more useless against this new mutation. So somebody needs to have some better diagnostic tools developed, and very, very quickly. We did this flashback story. This came from NBC Chicago, no less. And it's talking about an event that happened in 2019 called Crimson Contagion, which was a pandemic simulation to look at what its implications would be. The exercise and the results were marked not for distribution, but the New York Times got a hold of it and published it. And it was an exercise about the flu, not the coronavirus, but the document points to specific problematic areas for a hypothetical outbreak that, interestingly enough, in the exercise began in China and landed in Chicago. Okay. Meanwhile, 11 Kentuckians have traveled to areas of Africa with Ebola outbreaks, but we're being reassured the risk is low. Kentucky health officials are aware of these 11 people from the state who traveled to Guinea and the Democratic Republic of Congo, two African countries experiencing Ebola outbreaks. Governor Andy Beshear announced Tuesday. And he said, we don't believe there's any significant risk at the moment, but we do want to be transparent about it. Again, a lot of different types of Ebola, and some are very deadly, some are not. But if one of the deadlier ones did get loose in this country, let's say somebody walking across that open border, it would make the COVID-19 pandemic look like a summer picnic. Turning to the international news, Thailand is bracing as refugees from Myanmar flee to the border regions. They're going to be just massing across to get into Thailand and get away from all the violence that's going on. Over in Tanzania, their President John Magufuli has died at the age of 21. He was away from his office for about 2 weeks, which led to speculations about his health. His wife said that he died from the heart disease that had plagued him from a decade, but a lot of people are pointing out the fact that he was a very vocal critic about the way the COVID pandemic was being handled. He was skeptical of the vaccines, skeptical of the lockdowns and the masks. All right, now we are continuing to see a little bit of fallout over Joe Biden coming on out and attacking Vladimir Putin, saying that he's a killer, that Biden says he looked into Putin's eyes and saw that he had no soul. Putin, I'm sure, looked into Biden's eyes and saw that he had no brain. But it's increasing tensions. And right now, Russian diplomats are saying tensions between the United States and Russia are really at a very, very low point right now. Meanwhile, Russian President Putin responded to Joe Biden calling him a killer, basically saying he is describing himself. So the war of words is continuing. Meanwhile, Russia has recalled their ambassador to the United States after Biden threatens Putin and calls him a killer with no soul. There is a former colonel who is expressing concern regarding the recent Defense Department order to root out extremists in the ranks. Now, this is the first Green Beret to serve in Congress, Representative Michael Waltz. He's a Republican from Florida. And he's concerned, what are Biden's military priorities and what message is this sending? Okay, there's the music. It's time to take some commercials, and we'll be right back.
Is your property a financial burden and causing you grief? Have you tried to sell but can't find buyers? Or are you just too busy to sell your property? Don't worry, we have the right solution for you. We buy properties as is, with cash, close in 30 days, and pay all closing costs. Our service is ideal for property owners who are in pre-foreclosure, have high-end repair costs, experiencing financial hardship, going through costly divorces, are relocating, need cash for retirement, suffering family loss, or have tax liens. Whatever your situation may be, we can help you sell your property and get the money you need. If you own a single-family home or multiple family units, call us for a free consultation at 888-910-1037. That's 888-910-1037. Or visit our website at cashingproperty.com. That's cashingproperty.com. Sell your property fast and leave all your worries behind.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? If you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have, do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus.
$500 gets you 2 Commander memberships at Front Sight. $500 for 2 Commander memberships. Give one to whomever you would like.
We are living in dangerous days, and I am frightened by what you say. It chills right to the core. This talk of holy war.
Welcome back to our show here, and again, a friendly reminder that the Front Sight Firearms promotion is definitely a sweet deal for those of you who are supporters of the Second Amendment, those of you who are shooting enthusiasts, those of you who simply want to be in a position to defend your home and your loved ones during what look to be very rough times ahead of us. Meanwhile, here at Republic Broadcasting, the postal address to send a donation, whether check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. And if you will mail in a donation of $100 or more, please include your t-shirt size and a return address, and you will get an official RBN t-shirt. And, of course, all of this contact information is at the top of republicbroadcasting.org. All right, let's now look at the economic news. And billionaire Ray Dalio is saying that the tax changes coming down from the Biden administration, he describes them as shocking. He is warning that there could be new prohibitions against both gold and Bitcoin, and I would presume all cryptocurrencies. Basically the idea is to lock us all into the dollar and prohibit movements to assets like gold, Bitcoin, not to mention other tax jurisdictions. So they're getting ready to slam the cage shut on anybody who's got any money out there. Interestingly enough, WikiLeaks has come on out with a State Department cable from 1974 that confirms the gold futures market was created for price suppression. They don't want you owning gold. Gold means freedom from the private central bankers, means freedom from the government itself. And we know that the gold futures market has, shall we say, oversubscribed those paper contracts. Something like 100 to 1, which means for every 1 ounce of real physical gold, there are contracts out there for 100 ounces of the paper gold. And that's being done because they take those contract prices and blend them with the real price of the metal to come up with the daily fixed gold prices, which are being kept down deliberately because they want you to stay with the not-so-mighty dollar. All right. Now, apparently yesterday, Joe Biden detailed his plan for the biggest tax hike in 15 years. And considering it's his own tax policy, it struck a lot of people as odd that he had to use a cheat sheet and, come on out there to announce the figures about how much money was going to be involved, where it was going to go. They're going to spend $400,000 to fight child poverty and so forth and so on. Very, very reckless. And it gets back to what I was saying yesterday. I don't think this country is being well managed at all. We have got serious management problems, abuses by management. It's almost time for the American people as a whole to form their own labor union and go on a strike until management cleans up its act. Another article, this one coming out of Investment Watch blog, raising taxes almost never cuts the debt. Because they'll raise the taxes and say, we're going to make payments on the debt, but they never do. They take the money, they spend it someplace else. Wars, Israel, pork barrel projects, drag queen story hour. Who knows what's going to go on. Speaking of unions, the United Auto Workers is criticizing Ford over their company's plan to build a new vehicle down in Mexico instead of Ohio. That's putting 1,600 jobs at risk. Remember, when Trump was in office, he was trying to incentivize the return of American corporations to U.S. soil for their manufacturing, and now that seems to have gone away. 21 states have filed a lawsuit against Joe Biden over his canceling of the Keystone XL pipeline, a decision that has sparked pushback even from Democrats who are not far left on energy policy. So that one is going to go to the courts as well. It was a reckless thing to do. I mean, once you've invested that much money, in something, see it through to completion. I mean, that's the rationale they've been giving us for continuing to pour money into the F-35. Well, the Keystone XL pipeline doesn't have any of the problems of the F-35, and it would be of great economic benefit to the country as a whole, and Biden just canceled it. Bank of America did a survey of fund managers and showed that out of 220 people who were surveyed, their fear is what they fear most is higher than expected inflation. And yes, with the Federal Reserve just cranking money out of thin air, it's certainly going to hit. They're looking for places they can use as cash sinks, like skyrocketing real estate prices and so forth. Anyway, we're going to take another break for commercials. Back with more news after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Extendivite has proven time and again it really works. Here's a testimonial from Amazon.com. I am only 40, but I have put my body through hell working in manufacturing for 20 years. I recently started to notice a buzzing feeling along with a stuttering sensation with my heart. I had a full cardio stress done, which I passed. I decided to try Extendivite after getting the jingle stuck in my head. Halfway through the bottle, I really did notice a difference. After getting home from work, I would just sit in a chair for a few hours feeling like crap, and this stuff reduced that feeling along with heart discomfort to almost nothing. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Corporations, Wall Street and the banks rule our politicians. They don't deserve our thanks, then they tell us the banks are too big to fail. When the banksters all need to be in jail.
Welcome back to our show here. And earlier in the program, we mentioned the COVID relief bill that Congress passed last week, and many Americans by now should be getting those $1,400 checks into their bank account. But the debate over the amount of money, $1.9 trillion, and where it actually went is continuing. Mitch McConnell was out there bemoaning the fact that only about 1% of the stimulus bill went to vaccines, and only about 9% went for health services, and obviously the aid checks to Americans are another big part of it. But looking at some of the other things the bill had, the stimulus bill gave $135 million each to the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities. The bill reserves even more, $200 million for the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Now, excuse me, but what does that have to do with the COVID-19? And the NEA has already been allotted more than $162 million for the entire fiscal year of 2020 in a spending bill passed at the end of 2019, an increase in the organization's funding from the previous year. Combined with the $75 million the NEA received in the CARES Act last year, the total of additional aid is well above the organization's normal yearly budget. So they're just passing it out there. And some of the NEA's recent grants include $50,000 to help bring Transcripts, a play about actual individuals who transition from male to female, to the United States, and nearly $100,000 to adapt Shakespeare plays for the stage without words. Now, the NEA and Institute of Museum and Library Services also teamed up to spend nearly $500,000 on a museum exhibit that intends to provide attendees with the sights, sounds, smells, feel, and taste of medieval times. Well, if you want that, just go out to the Renaissance Pleasure Fair. They didn't spend anywhere near as much money. Corporation for Public Broadcasting also gets $175 million. The stimulus bill provides $20 million to, quote, ensure the survival and continuing vitality of Native American languages during and after the public health emergency, end quote. Now, I'm sure that there are people who want to preserve the Native American languages, but I think that really is for the Native Americans themselves to decide. But that's $20 million. Another $100 million will go toward Native American housing improvement. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service will also receive $95 million of additional funding, and the Environmental Protection Agency will receive $100 million, half of which is designated to identify and address disproportionate environmental or public health harms and risks in minority populations or low-income populations. Some of the funding in the bill, passed without the support of a single Republican in either chamber of Congress, is scheduled to be doled out over several years as late as 2027. The package reserves several large funding blocks for cybersecurity and technology. $200 million will remain available well into 2024 for the U.S. Digital Service, the federal tech unit established after the Obamacare website's disastrous launch and crash in 2013. And that was a huge, huge embarrassment. A lot of money was spent on it, wouldn't work. Meanwhile, students at a college created a perfectly working copy of the Obamacare website as a school project. So it's just hideous amount of waste. $650 million is reserved through 2023 for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency to be used for risk mitigation, and $1 billion through 2025 for the Technology Modernization Fund, which enhances IT at federal agencies. And I'm sure a lot of this stuff is really needed, some more than others. But again, what does this have to do with COVID-19 and the economic hardship the American people have suffered from an already damaged economy made worse by the pandemic lockdowns? All right. So, although this is purportedly a coronavirus relief bill, $3.5 billion will go to fight other diseases in the form of a contribution to the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. So they were just handing it all out. And remember, this is all borrowed money, which you, the taxpayer down the road, are going to have to pay back with accruing interest. And it's been estimated that for each $1,400 check a taxpayer gets, the eventual tax burden will amount to something like $66,000. Over in Philadelphia, somebody shot a video of the city's homeless areas, and it's been described as the largest open-air drug market on the East Coast. And it looks like a scene out of an apocalyptic movie. But it's another reflection of just how bad our economy already was even before the pandemic. So let's talk a little bit about immigration and so forth. The Border Patrol is warning Joe Biden that the overwhelmed staff cannot cope with the crisis levels of immigration. And the Border Patrol is revealing how migrants are heading for the United States because they hear on the news we're letting people in, and cartel warfare is breaking out on the border. Apparently that there is a rivalry between two gangs and over who gets that lucrative people smuggling business. Jen Psaki, in a press conference yesterday, announced that any 10-year-old in the world who makes it across the U.S. southern border will be allowed to stay here. And the United States is currently facing its biggest migrant surge into the U.S. in 20 years. It is a serious, serious problem. Now, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary is admitting that illegal immigrants have been released into the United States without being tested for COVID-19. And those who did get tested and those who tested positive were still allowed to board buses to other places within the U.S. Now that is a little bit scary. Polls are showing that 73% of voters are concerned about Biden's migrants bringing more COVID into the country. And over at Twitter, they are now silencing all tweets who mention the large number of COVID-19 positive people being allowed to come into the country over that southern border. Story coming on out of the Gateway Pundit. Illegal immigrants are being given a sheet of paper with instructions to appear in court, and they're allowed to fly domestic airlines using that sheet of paper as an ID. And the southern border is totally overrun. The Biden administration is fully responsible. It's going to have impacts on our economy, our population, our quality of life, our health. It's insane. It's an absolute disaster. Over in Texas, the governor is saying that the Biden administration is refusing to allow state authorities to visit the child migrant camps. And Texas Governor Abbott is calling it a humanitarian crisis. And he's assailing the Biden administration for keeping Texas state health and law enforcement officials from the migrant camps playing host to thousands and thousands of unaccompanied minors, and for failing to keep the Texas state government apprised of the situation. So they're getting a little hot under the collar there, and justifiably so. The White House is confirming that Joe Biden has looked at photographs from inside the packed government holding facilities for child migrants. He hasn't gone down there to visit, but he did look at a picture. Huzzah, huzzah, isn't he a great president? And the White House is now denying that they imposed a gag order on Border Patrol agents, which we reported had happened yesterday. Getting into the woke news, political correct and so forth, there is a women's college in California, Mills College. It's been in existence for 169 years, and because of the economic downturn, they're having to basically close down its degree program, and instead they're going to become an institute for women's leadership. Okay. We all know who Ralph Fiennes is. He's an actor. He played Voldemort in the Harry Potter series, Hotel Budapest, The Constant Gardener, which is one of my favorite films. And he's out there defending J.K. Rowling over this transgender controversy, and he says the backlash that has hit Rowling is very disturbing, and he says he can't understand the vitriol directed at her. And basically, J.K. Rowling came on out and expressed her honest opinion about the transgender situation and whether men are men and women are women and can they swap places. And she has become a target for the transgender movement. And this goes all the way back to June of 2020 when the author first tweeted about an op-ed piece regarding, men who menstruate and mocked the story for not using, it was people who menstruate and mocked the story for not using the word women. The tweet generated this backlash, which prompted the author to repeatedly and ever more adamantly defend herself and elaborate on her views in a lengthy essay. So, anyway, over in Vermont, there is a liberal professor at the University of Vermont, Aaron Kinsvater, teaches courses on education and mental health, and he published a video on March 8th detailing the institutional discrimination and systematic racial dehumanization he and other whites on the UVM campus face every single day. And now it's being demanded that he resign for standing up and defending white students and faculty from this very open and blatant racially based discrimination. So there's a man of courage there. They're basically trying to get rid of him because he's complaining of anti-white sentiment on the campus, which we're seeing all across the country. This whole critical race theory and white supremacist, and it seems like you can't be racist against any racial group except the white people, and they're fair game. It's open season on anybody who's white. Just sick 'em. Down in Florida, Governor DeSantis has said there is no room in Florida classrooms for critical race theory. Now, critical race theory is this far-left political ideology which says all the bad things that happen are the fault of white people. And it's not exactly, that's perhaps an oversimplification, but it is. It's propagandizing against the white population. Up in New Hampshire, Republican Governor Sununu threatens to veto a bill barring divisive anti-white curriculum in New Hampshire schools. Again, this is the critical race theory curriculum. They just don't want it. And again, all of this indoctrination gets in the way of the real purpose of education, which is reading, writing, arithmetic, science, engineering, chemistry, and anything else that's going to allow this nation to compete in the modern technological global marketplace. So, good for New Hampshire. Interestingly enough, a Democrat from South Carolina, a state lawmaker, has introduced a bill banning transgender reassignment procedures on minors, and his fellow Democrats are just, up in arms over that. Now, the bill is called the South Carolina Vulnerable Child Compassion and Protection Act. It was sponsored by Democratic State Representative Cesar McKnight, would prohibit the performance of any and all medical procedures aimed at altering a minor's sex or gender, including surgery and hormone treatments. The bill also defines one's sex as the biological state of being male or female based on the individual's sex organs, chromosomes, and endocrinous hormone profiles. Say that 3 times fast. So a little more common sense coming on out from there. Interestingly enough, there's a story that came on out from Madness Hub. Dr. Michael Cretella is executive director of the American College of Pediatricians, and he's sounding alarm bells about the fact that if passed, the Equality Act would punish medical doctors, psychologists, and other mental health professionals who do not go along with a confused minor's gender identity. And the scary part of it is he's saying that these cross-sex hormones following the puberty-blocking drugs could end up through a premature menopause or andropause and all of the ailments that come with it. In other words, it's going to prematurely age these young people during these treatments. It's all very, very reckless. Okay. Now, this is probably going to brighten up your day a little bit. Over in Milwaukee, a county children's court judge and former president and CEO of the Cream City Foundation, which runs the city's Drag Queen Story Hour program, have been arrested on 7 counts of child pornography. Now, Brett Blom, 38 years old, was arrested on Tuesday for allegedly uploading 27 images and videos of children being sexually abused on the messaging app Kik. Now, Blom was held overnight and released with a signature. He's been ordered to stay off social media and file sharing services and is not allowed near any children except the 2 he adopted with his husband. That is just a little bit weird. All right, let's get into some science news because there's some cool things happening out there. And, of course, we're going to start with Perseverance, which is starting to move all over Mars. And it sent back sounds of its progress going across the Martian soil, and frankly, if I heard those sounds coming out of my car, I would immediately call for a tow truck and take it to the garage because it's grinding, squealing, the sounds of Martian gravel hitting the probe, and it's noisy, and it's supposed to be noisy. But the noises made by Perseverance's 6 metal wheels and suspension are part of a 16-minute raw audio feed released yesterday by the JPL out in Pasadena, California. Actually, it's in La Cañada. Shh, don't tell anybody. And so Perseverance is out there, and it turns out I'm not the only person saying that there might well be life on Mars right now. I know that Perseverance is looking for remains of ancient life, but they might accidentally trip over something. I mean, Curiosity never went back and looked at that image that was nicknamed the crab, which certainly looked like a biological life form sticking out of that hole. Okay, going to take a break for commercials. I'll come back to this story after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Cleaner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Please view, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stop terrorism. Please contact us if you or anyone you know who wants to be on our show at thetruthpharmacy@gmail.com. Keep it real. Take the red pill.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
Welcome back to our show here, coming up on the top of the hour, and we're looking at this article from phys.org asking, is there life on Mars today, and where might it be found? And certainly it is a relevant question to ask now. Of course, those of us who worked on Viking, we think we did find life on Mars back in 1976 because of the labeled release experiment designed by Dr. Gilbert Levin. In a comment published in Nature Astronomy, Dr. Natalie Cabral, director of the Carl Sagan Center for Research at the SETI Institute, is challenging current assumptions about the possibility of modern life on Mars. And the reality is that the vast majority, the consensus, if you will, is there is no life on Mars. Why? Because that's what NASA said after Viking had landed and gone through its situation. But Dr. Levin and I and a bunch of other Viking veterans, if you will, are watching Perseverance very, very closely to see if maybe there might be a little bit of vindication there. NASA is getting ready for what should be the final major test of the massive rocket that is being built to send the first woman and the next man to the moon. 700,000 gallons of supercold propellant will fill up the tanks of the 212-foot tall core stage so it can fire its 4 engines without actually blasting off. The goal is to simulate what will happen during its first launch, a mission to send a capsule with no crew around the moon and back. So they're getting ready to do that. We're going back to the moon. High time, I think. You know, imagine if Columbus coming back from Americas and nobody had followed in his footsteps. New theory about what might have started life here on Earth. This is from the Smithsonian, and they're saying that lightning may have actually created the first self-replicating molecules in the primordial soup here on Earth, as opposed to these molecules being brought in by meteors and such. Interesting little story. This is from Tethasta.com. Scientists have discovered that feeding cows seaweed cut their methane emissions by 82%. And they found that the cows belched out 82% less methane after putting small amounts of seaweed in their feed for just 5 months. Now, I'm going to take a wild guess here and say that the seaweed is probably continuing its photosynthesis, absorbing the carbon dioxide the methane. In any event, there is something going on there, and methane from cows is being pointed at as one of the more compelling greenhouse gases. Getting into computers, and I think I've got enough time for this story. The largest ransomware demand now stands at $30 million as the cyber criminals get bolder and bolder. It used to be they were targeting individual users for $100 or $200 or something like that. They have definitely gone up, and they're going after large corporations, and they're demanding ever more money. And the question on my mind is, why is the government not dealing with this emergency? We're going to take a break for station identification. We're going to open up the phone lines, area code 512-248-8252, and we will be right back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, putting America first, second, and third. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show here, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252, and we're going to go to the phones to Tom in Utah. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Earlier you were talking about the disparity of health for the Native Americans, and if I understood you right.
I think I mentioned that part of the COVID stimulus bill involved money to help preserve the Native American languages, which I think is a good idea, but I really do think that the Native Americans should probably be handling that themselves rather than have some other government agency come on in and muck it all up.
Yeah, my experience with them, I got to tell you, they really have the poorest medicine provided of anybody. So I'm just finished stuffing a sandwich in my mouth.
Okay.
Anyway, as I went from one community to another in the United States and Canada, I found out that their medical facilities were the most poorly equipped of any medical clinic facility that you could ever imagine. For example, I'd identified the poisoning problem in their manufactured mobile homes where they were getting carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yes.
Not one single reservational clinic held simple equipment to test for carbon monoxide, which almost every hospital and almost every even overnight clinic in America has.
Well, then I think if the COVID bill was being realistic, maybe that money that they're sending in to preserve the Native American languages ought to be used instead to improve their quality of medical care, because, I'm aware of how shortchanged the reservations are on that. And I remember when Claire and I lived in Washington State, we got to be good friends with the local Snoqualmie community who were trying to achieve official recognition as a tribe. And we kept telling them it's not a good deal. You're better off just, living within the American culture and taking advantage of things like, better medical care. But they did eventually get their tribal recognition.
Right. In fact, Brian, I don't know if you remember, he was made president over the National Congress of American Indians for a period.
Cool.
From that community.
Yes.
Anyway, if you go to gassingnativeamerica.com, you can see that relationship I had made with the leadership. And I went to D.C. on several occasions with them. They asked me to go with them.
Yes.
And I approached the Indian Health Service.
Yes.
They're nothing more than just another arm of BIA and Department of Commerce.
Yes.
And they're shortchanged in every way possible. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that they really have got the short end of the stick.
Yes.
I was asked to go down in the Four Corners area when they had the hantavirus. They were being lied to every which way. And it seems like there's no integrity with Indian Health Service or with BIA when it comes to, their responsibility with the Native Americans.
No, they're very poorly treated. There's no question about that. And Claire and I got to see that a little bit when we were still living in that part of the country. There is a wonderful movie out. It's called Thunderheart. It stars Val Kilmer, and it's based on a true story of something that happened on one of the reservations. And it's actually my favorite Val Kilmer movie because I really haven't. Well, maybe Real Genius a little bit better, but it's a good movie and it's worth looking at. But because it does call attention to the treatment of the Native Americans, it sort of got pushed off to one side. Then there was that Sundance documentary Incident at Oglala, which is about the framing of I'm blanking on his name.
Leonard Peltier.
Yeah, Leonard Peltier. Yeah, the framing of him and how badly the FBI botched that.
Russell Means was my dear friend. In fact, he came out to visit me just a few weeks before his passing.
Yes.
Because he was so grateful for the effort that we were making to try to get some, to get some real, honest.
Yeah.
By the way, I think it's called Braveheart. There's an organization of the Lakota women that's called Braveheart. If people get a chance, Google Braveheart. You'll find their struggle to try to get.
Are you okay?
Trying to get. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been up through the night. I've been working on another case. It's really tough when you got to stay up all night trying to get documents ready for court.
Yeah, I can identify.
Anyway, yeah, Braveheart. Russell Means, people could go to russellmeansfreedom.org.
Yes.
Even though Russell has passed, but his friends are still maintaining that website.
Yes.
You can see and by the way, he was one of the most vocal individuals I ever knew of supporting the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah, he absolutely was. I mean, I do remember him, and he was also in Thunderheart with Val Kilmer.
Right. When you open up Gassing America or Gassing Native America, right at the right side at the top, you'll see me standing there with Russell Means just weeks before his passing. I really loved the man because he had integrity, and he did care about his people. In fact, it was their money that paid my plane ticket to get to D.C. when they wanted me to sit down with them and Obama. What an experience that is.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, I'm looking at your website, and after the radio show, I'm going to go ahead and put it up. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right, you've got it. We're going to switch over to Sebastian in Sweden. Hello, Sebastian. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike. I was just going to inform all the American listeners that Sweden they're going to start an agency for psychological defense, and it's going to be it's for combating disinformation and misleading rumors, etc.
Yeah.
And the critics call it, the Ministry of Truth.
Yes.
Now this is going to come. This is really. I didn't hear the beginning of the program. Maybe you mentioned it, but it's going to start on the 1st of January next year, and next year is election year.
Yes.
So they're going to have it in place just for the elections, in case anyone puts out a poster or, it's offensive to the Social Democrats, and they're going to say, oh, you can't have this. And I think it's a way to curb political parties like Swedish Democrats.
Yeah.
And it's really almost like 1984. I mean, it's really bad. And but I hope I hope the Swedish Democrats prevail next September. Our election, they start the campaigning the 1st of August because it's illegal to start campaigning before the 1st of August. And then the election is in September, the second week, I think, in September.
Well, that's definitely a better way to be handling it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked that. In August election, because you see posters on the street and, billboards, and it's election year. Wow, and it only goes around for a month and a half, and then you don't have to see that anymore, unlike American elections. But
well, here in the U.S. it's different. I mean, the dust hadn't even settled from the 2020 election, and already the 2022 campaigns are, cranking on up. It's like a permanent presence in our lives.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of a program on the States I saw when I was a kid. This guy came in, he always said, "What a revolting development this is."
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm trying to remember that. He was a comedian, I think.
Yeah, it's a comedian, but this is really true now with this new law that's going to come into effect next year.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens. Other than that, everyone I know around here is healthy. I don't know anyone that has taken the vaccine, but I'm sure you have reasons. Everything, it's all to each his own. So, but it's okay. It's still cold here. We still get frost at night. Spring hasn't, started here where I live anyway, in Sweden.
Well, okay. I mean,
take care of you.
I certainly will. Same to you. And we're going to switch over to Joseph in North Carolina. Hello, Joseph. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. Nice to be on the show. I was wanting to talk about the problem with inflation.
Yes.
I was going to tell your listeners that a good hedge against inflation, rather than investing in just silver and gold bullion, to maybe invest in silver and gold numismatic American coins.
Yes.
Because although silver and gold bullion has been subject to government confiscation throughout history,
yes,
numismatics, on the other hand, have not. So it seems to be...
Now, that's not accurate. That's not accurate. When Roosevelt did his gold grab, it included gold coins. The only exception was gold jewelry, which, people were really digging their heels in on that. But gold coins were included with that gold grab as well. Another advantage to the numismatic coins, of course, is they're instantly recognizable, as opposed to a chunk of bullion where you've got to, cut off a piece and weigh it to come up with whatever price you're dealing with. But like the junk silver coins, everybody recognizes the quarter and the dime, and so if you're having to use those as a medium of exchange post-dollar collapse, that really is better than trying to go with like bars or rounds of silver.
Yeah, and then not only that, but the value of the numismatic coin increases due to attrition. So the premium can go a lot higher than just the melt value of the silver, especially if you have quality coins. Also, I was kind of wanting to bring back up some of the philosophical subjects from yesterday.
Okay, well, before we do that, I have a comment about numismatic value, because that's almost a fashion trend. Things become more valuable and less value as collectibles over time. And I would urge people, if you're going to invest in silver coins, get them as close to the melt value price as you can, and then that way you're never going to be disappointed, because there are a lot of people who bought coins they thought were going to be collectible, and their numismatic premium values just fell through the floor. Anyway, get on back up. Yeah?
I'm not saying to buy like the newer coins. You want to buy already known collectible coins with a fixed supply. That's really important. And what that does is that allows then attrition to come into play, and that's the removal of the coins from circulation, which then reduces the fixed supply and makes them intrinsically more valuable to the collector.
Okay.
All right. So as far as the philosophy is concerned, yesterday we talked about a few things, and I just wanted to say that I think philosophy is important, especially as it pertains to the show, because we deal with things. Or you deal with things on the show, such as like what's wrong with the world,
yes,
and how can we fix it, and that's a very key part of philosophy. Also, I just wanted to apologize about yesterday. I seem to have misrepresented some of your ideals about morality, as I feel like I misheard you. I kind of thought you were talking about consensus. but it seems like you more had a pragmatic ideal of
Yes.
morality, and that it's what works best for humanity. And I just wanted to say that my concern was with objective morality, and I just want to say that that sort of pragmatic ideal does not provide an objective moral basis. Instead, it's a moral basis that is circumstantial, in that it is subject to the circumstance that we're in. For instance, if we had an issue of mass starvation due to famine, and we needed to do something drastic in order to survive just long enough till we get more food, it could then be considered morally okay to engage in cannibalism in order to preserve the species as a whole. Also, we can deal with something a little more practical in that, as far as what's going on today, a lot of people seem to believe that, and I'm not saying that you do, but a lot of people seem to believe that we are overpopulated, and that our resources are being depleted too fast, and therefore use that as a justification for abortion. So you can see then if that was really the case, and you have this pragmatic type of morality, which is circumstantial, then if the circumstance allows for that certain thing, then it's okay to do it, just as long as we are, extending the survival of the human race.
That's kind of a moral relativism that's out there, and I'll be the first one to admit the human population is a problem, and that's because sex is a lot more fun than dying. Again, I'm very uncomfortable with the idea of abortion. I'm uncomfortable with anybody setting themselves up as being in a superior position to dictate to others who can and cannot have a child. But if you really look at the evolution of the human race, we've sort of broken the normal model of nature. We don't suffer the diseases that other animals do that thins out their population. We don't have any natural predators that making a significant dent in our numbers, and that's the reason they're spiraling out of control. Now, at some point, this does have to be addressed because new technologies, population is an unlimited expansion. But technological achievement tends to be linear. And so every once in a while you reach a point where the population swamps the available technology, and there's a crossover point, which I think is called a Malthusian catastrophe. And then there's going to be a die-off, and then things start all over again. The last time the population was severely thinned outside of war was, of course, the Black Plague, which in turn, because it reduced the stress on the environment, led to the Renaissance.
Right. And so that, that was just sort of an example I had. But to get back to the point of, objective morality, which is what I'm really worried about, because I don't want to, to have to do with this moral relativism. I think that's a huge problem in society, like I said.
Yeah, I would agree.
I just want to... Yeah, and I want to say, in order to get away from that, we have to have objective morality. Now, one might ask themselves, how can we have objective reality? Objective morality. Well, I would say, in order to have objective morality, you have to have an objective lawgiver. And this objective lawgiver must not only be by nature moral, but this lawgiver must be eternal, omniscient, omnipotent, and everywhere present, in order that he could not only create and sustain the law.
I see where you're going with this argument.
Also judge necessarily.
The problem is that we have these, shall we say, the stenographers who purport to write down the divinely revealed morality, and it's different from each religion. I mean, remember the Norse morality was that you would only get into Valhalla if you died with a sword in your hand. That was what was considered moral for them.
Right. Well, let me address that really quick because not all religions are the same. So when
No.
we're looking at religions, we have to see which. No, not all religions are the same. And we're looking for religions as far as determining which one is the most accurate. We have to see which one has the prerequisites for intelligibility. And I would argue that only Christianity has those prerequisites in that Christianity's God is by nature not only moral, but is omniscient. So he's all-knowing, all-powerful, everywhere present, and is the creator and sustainer of all things.
Okay, well, Joseph, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials. I would add that looking around the world and its condition today, that your omnipotent, omniscient God isn't really doing a bang-up job here. Thank you for the call. We'll be back with more calls after these few words.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well,
welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Bruce in Texas. Hello, Bruce. Thank you for waiting. What's on your mind?
Yes, hello, Michael. First of all, before I get into the stimulus, I just want to put out there, maybe you have seen it, mention it if you have, the video of Biden on the South Lawn. He approaches the microphones, and it looks like he's CGI. The microphone goes under his arm and then kind of through his cuff. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have, but you need to understand those little furry, they nickname them critters. It's an anti-wind device, and they're actually very large, and I think the video is genuine. I know I had a lot of people send it to me and say it's an obvious fake, and no, I don't think so, because if somebody was faking it, why would they make that obvious a mistake?
Well, let me get to that. It's a game they're playing. Someone in Bloomberg, whoever put out that video that's Bloomberg's angle. They're the one who published it. It appears that way. And then if you look at the Washington Post, which is taking their angle was from Biden's right, the viewer's left, and you can see that same microphone is about 2 feet to the right of Biden. And so, way far away. And so it looks like they moved, someone playing games with the video, moved the microphone over and just playing with the Q-tards. You know what I mean? It's
okay,
kinda
but
like
why? Why? I mean, technically it could be done. I could even do it, but why would you bother,
I can send you the video, Michael, if you want to see it.
I have seen it.
Look at with an open mind, you can see that. Huh?
I've seen the video.
No, I mean the second view. Have you seen the second view?
No, I have not. Go ahead and send that.
Okay, I will send it to you. Yeah, once you see that, then you see what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll put that one to rest. What really happened? What's your email then, or it's on your website?
Yeah, it's wrh@whatreallyhappened.com.
Okay, thank you. All right, and the second thing, that stimulus is you can't even call it waste. It's just fraud and theft.
It's pork.
It's pork. But see, I don't think pork and waste, that's not even strong enough terms as far as I'm concerned. That's just blatant theft.
Yes.
And fraud, and these things. I'm a quarter Native American myself, and that money is just sucked into, it's like every other social program, sucked into the bureaucracy, or these people that get huge salaries to pad their pockets and to hire more employees and get their grants and all this, and it's disgusting, And as far as the Apache Nation in Texas and Arizona, they fought against Mexico 2 wars and welcomed the Americans in at first because they were also conflicting with Mexico, and now they're overrunning the United States with illegal aliens. I guarantee you that Geronimo would have just balked at any of this. It's an invasion of our territory.
Yes.
Being invited in. The best thing they would do is put the Apache Nation in charge of the U.S.-Mexico border, and this would stop in an instant.
You're right about that. They don't mess around.
Yeah. Yep. And my final thought is, look, this is going to turn, these callers that call in with their religious themes, contact John Stadtmuller, see if you can have a Christian hour and you can have your own show, because
that's actually not a bad idea. And I don't want to be impolite, and I don't want to just slam the phone down on the religious callers, but it is taking up too much of the show, and that's not what this show is about.
Got it. All right, thank you. Talk to you later.
Thank you. And we're going to switch to David in Allentown. Hello, David. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, second-time caller.
Yes.
I want to set the stage before I really state what I'm after. In terms of, say, you or me or John, for that matter, going to a bank. Say, as an example, RBN is always asking for donations. And
yes, they are.
Them asking. So let's say, all right, I'm going to send donations so that John doesn't have to go to a bank and take out a loan to keep the broadcast going.
Yes.
The example that I'm going to give, if John went to a bank, say tomorrow, and took out a $500,000 loan, and said to all of his listeners, "Hey, I got the $500,000 that I needed to keep the broadcast open, but here's the bad news: I'm passing it off all to my listeners."
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be considered wouldn't that be considered a fraud?
No, I think if he's being upfront about it, it wouldn't be considered a fraud. But if you think about it, that's just what they did with the COVID stimulus bill. Is they're basically borrowing against the future. They get to play with the money now, and somebody down the road gets.
No, what the point that I'm after.
Yeah.
John couldn't go and borrow $500,000 and pass the debt off to anybody. He's liable for what he borrows.
Legally, yes.
No different than if legally, as a matter of law, I can't go to a bank and borrow any money, any line of credit, and pass it off to anybody else. That would be a fraud.
Okay, David.
How is Congress getting?
I got to put you on hold. David, don't hang up. I'm going to put you on hold. We got to take another break for commercials, and I'm going to come right back to you.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry, because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719, extension 3. 800-724-2719, extension 3.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Working 2 jobs ends never seem to meet. She often goes hungry so her babies can't eat. The fatherless son wears torn clothes to school. We're making fun of him's the only golden rule. She doesn't know she's the favorite daughter. If someone wants to help her.
Welcome back to our show here. The phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252, and I'm getting a lot of emails regarding Joseph. And so anyway, we'll just see what's going to happen with that. Anyway, we're talking with David in Allentown. And David, if you could just sort of pick up where you left off.
Well, I have been studying the existence of the Federal Reserve banks for the last 20 years.
Yes.
And I've come to understand by looking at Title 31 and various quotes from people down through history about what this entity actually is. It is a private lending monopoly.
Yes, it is.
Congress doesn't have money. Congress doesn't have any money. They don't really impose tariffs the way that they were supposed to according to the Constitution. So when they need money, they actually borrow it
Yes.
from a private lending institution. And we all hear in the news as to whether or not the interest rates are going up or down or not moving at all. But then you hear them say that they're passing the debt to future generations.
Yes,
That's
they are.
fraud.
Yeah, it would be considered fraud for anybody but the government has declared what they do to be perfectly legal.
Well, legal is not, well, wait a minute. I don't have to be a part of this fraud, do I?
Well, if you're not part of the fraud, then the Infernal Revenue Service sends its enforcers over to your place of business, and they'll behave very rudely.
Well, I don't want to discuss that on the open air, but tell them for me.
Yeah.
Good luck with that idea.
Yeah. More and more people are coming up with that same attitude right now. And the fact of the matter is that the way the private central bank is set up, it is impossible to ever pay off the debt. It is a means of enslaving the American people to those privately owned banks. And Congress goes along with it because those bankers are very generous campaign donors every election cycle. I mean, Congress has the authority to dissolve the Federal Reserve at any time they want.
They won't do that because every time that they take out a loan, no matter what it is, and if you remember back when Clinton was in power, he stated what his budget was going to be.
Yep.
It started off with $6 trillion. That's what he needed to run the government.
Yes.
Now we don't even hear what a 4-year budget plan is. They pull these numbers out of their hat, and we're watching these numbers. 1 trillion? It was 6. How many stages have they borrowed and borrowed and borrowed and have far exceeded what Clinton did, what Bush had done, and they keep passing the debt off to the unsuspecting Americans?
Oh, and it's about $30 trillion now, plus the unfunded liabilities is another $100 trillion. There's no way it'll ever be paid off. It's just keeping you aware of that debt keeps you obediently pouring money into the government, which is what they really want. They're making you a slave.
People should be talking about this just like they do anything else. Like if it were sports or a ball game, the focus should be on exactly what these banks are and what they're doing. And they're turning the American population into a slave to pay the debt.
Yes.
If you know anything about Reagan, when Reagan commissioned Peter Grace to do the Grace Commission, that report showed that 100% of what's collected in revenue, all of it is gone. It's solely absorbed by the interest on the national debt. No tax dollars support the U.S. government at all. It's impossible. Mathematically, it is impossible. They don't collect anywhere near the amount of taxes to support the government. That's why they borrow it all. This is a known fact. It's just that people don't talk about this enough to agitate people to become more aware of it. There should be people screaming in the streets about this.
Yes, they should.
They borrowed $1.9 trillion, and we don't know where a fraction of this money is even going to. I just think that people should be aware that it is actually a fraud. No matter what Congress borrows, no matter what they say, that, well, this is going to be responsible for future generations. No, it's not. No, it's not. To say that is to be complicit and to be a part of the fraud. No future American, no American today is responsible for another man's debt. Congress borrowed it. let them come up with the money to pay it back. Americans should.
Well, they come up with the money to pay it back by taxing us. And you're absolutely right, though. No American alive today had anything to say about the creation of the Federal Reserve. All those politicians were elected before we were born. The bank was created before we were born. And yeah, it's just something that, we ourselves are born, and the government says, well, there's this debt you're born into, and you will be a slave to it for the rest of your life.
Well, you're not going to like what I'm going to say next.
Okay.
I don't have a Social Security number.
Okay.
I never applied for one. I was born here, and I've never paid a tax in my entire life, and I'm not about to start. With that, sir, have a good day. I enjoy watching and listening to your show.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and good luck with all that you're doing, and for the insights. And we're going to switch over to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, that guy shouldn't. He shouldn't. I hope he's calling on an completely unlisted number. Okay, what he just said. Hey, Mike, you were talking about Putin and what Biden said about Putin before. That's like a rat insulting a lion. That's basically what it comes down to. Putin, of course, being a lion and Biden being a rat. And I don't think Putin's very afraid of when he gets threatened by the United States anymore. I mean, this country's military is becoming a total joke. I mean, what are you going to have? A bunch of he/she's marching or transvestites marching? I mean, come on. With this incompetent buffoon now that we've got as the defense secretary, and he's politically correct. I don't use the term woke because these people aren't woke. Woke to me is people who have been red pilled. I consider myself woke.
Yes.
I'm red pilled. Okay. Truthers, real truthers. Those are people who are woke. Not these clowns are anything but woke. And I'm telling you, they this is a total joke. They're gonna threaten Russia of all places. Good luck with that. Anyway, there's one. I just want to ask you something about that vaccine you took. Now, me, I would not take any vaccine.
Yeah, well, that was my original feeling as well. But, I changed my mind, and, I kind of have my body, my choice. But we went for the Johnson & Johnson because there are no reports yet of serious adverse reactions.
Well, that's one of the things I want to ask you, because I do know people, including, family members of mine, that want to take this horrendous vaccine. And I just wanted to say, as far as the Johnson vaccine, is that considered that's not an RMNA, I know that.
No, it's not an mRNA vaccine.
So is that a traditional vaccine and kind of like the flu vaccine?
No, it's still experimental, but it's based on a DNA molecule, which is much more stable than RNA.
Yeah, but it's still going. Is it going into your genes or what?
Well, supposedly how it's working is that it is transmitting messages for your body to make certain proteins that are going to ward off the COVID-19 from infecting your cells. Although, again, we're getting mixed signals on that because Fauci is out there admitting that none of these vaccines are really about stopping COVID-19 so much as about reducing the symptoms.
Oh, I'm not concerned about stopping COVID-19 because I don't even know if COVID-19 really exists. I think it's just some kind of a mutating flu virus that probably mutates from year to year. But what I'm concerned about is the harmful effects, if not right away, long term.
They could be long-term effects here. The doctor who says my PMR is an adverse reaction says it can take years for these things to show up. And that's why they're not being noticed.
The doctor told you that?
One of my doctors said that he thinks my PMR is an adverse vaccine reaction. His theory is that anytime you hear the phrase autoimmune, you're dealing with an adverse vaccine reaction, a very long-term one.
Well, that's what I suspect too.
Yeah.
Including autism. I go along with what Dr. Wakefield said about autism. I think these are all dangerous. Most of them are unnecessary. And the problem with a lot of these minor, minor diseases like chickenpox and measles, mumps, German measles, or rubella, whatever you want to call it. and of course the flu. These are very minor, basically minor viruses that the body will not get much of. By putting a dead or a weakened virus in the body will not have a reaction to it. Won't gear up for it, and they have to put these adjuvants in there.
Yes.
These adjuvants, food and metals, things like that. That's what causes a lot of you.
Very much so.
Like when you take a tetanus shot or something like that. Tetanus is a serious thing. So they put a dead or a weakened tetanus virus in there. They don't have to put adjuvants in there. The same thing with yellow fever or
yes.
some of these other either bacterial or virus infections. Rabies. Well, we don't even have a rabies vaccine actually for humans. We have it for animals.
Yes.
But even when they do it with animals and stuff like that, and they just don't. They basically will do it with a deadened bacteria or virus, depending on what it is. So that's not, and that's why those things tend to work. But when you take a something, there's no reason to have vaccines for these minor, either childhood diseases or these minor respiratory viruses like the flu. Okay, there's no reason to have a vaccine for that.
It's just business. It's just business. Selling medicines to healthy people, is much more profitable than waiting for them to get sick and then selling them medicines, which if they don't work, then you get sued.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a shame. And you can't even sue these people anymore because of that pact that Ronald Reagan signed with Fauci standing right at his side.
Yes.
So, this is why, people look up to these presidents, including now Trump.
Yeah.
But Trump is coming out and saying, get the vaccine, okay? He didn't care which one either. Yeah? He just says, oh, they're all good. See, I told you before, I voted for Trump, and I told you even before the election that I would vote for Trump, but I don't think much of him. But he was the better of the choice because the
Same here. I was not impressed with Trump. I just didn't want Hillary in that Oval Office.
Yeah. Or Biden, who is now, we're seeing just how bad this man could possibly be, and he's worse than that. So that's why. And that brings me to one other question for you, Bill, more or less. You were talking about silver and gold and all that.
Yes.
What are they talking about? How are they going to tax these things when they don't even know if you have it or not?
That's another reason they want gold coins and gold bars to go away and cryptocurrency. They want to tax absolutely everything. And if they bring about the cashless society, then there's not going to be any transactions whatsoever that they don't see and put a tax on.
Well, what's going to happen then if they bring that over in is going to be the underground economy. People will, and that's where, like, especially silver coins and gold coins and things like that are going to come in handy. Not the bars, not like you said, like the bars, or to have it in stocks either. You got to have it. You got to have it. And nobody needs to know you're getting it.
Yes.
Because I'm wondering how Roosevelt was able to know who had gold and who didn't back then when he confiscated the gold back then.
Well, back then Americans were much more believing and trusting in the government, and most people just turned it in voluntarily.
Oh,
and they got a big stack of pretty colored paper in exchange for it.
Oh, they gave him money for it.
Oh yeah, they gave him paper currency for it.
Okay. I thought they didn't give him anything for it.
No, they.
So you got to be stupid.
Yeah.
Like that. People got to be really dumb to do something like that. So that's how. So because to me, once the economy collapses, and I think that's going to happen very soon, whether it's going to be some kind of really bad inflation, or if it's going to be deflation, because the economy just one way or the other is gone. It's going, and that might be the only form of currency. And that probably would be the best way to keep up. I really got to get busy, and I'm just trying to think whether I'm better off buying silver or going with Bitcoin. I don't totally trust Bitcoin because it's on the computer. Because I think it would be able to be tracked easier.
And look at how many Bitcoin exchanges have been hacked. You know, I mean, if you've got a silver quarter in your pocket, you know, sitting in your home, you know, no hacker can come in over the Ethernet and you know, steal it from you. And the government can't change its value magically by simply saying, oh, it's only worth so much compared to the British pound. So yeah, it's there are good reasons to have a value-based currency where the currency itself has the intrinsic value, because it does lead to a stable. I mean, look at how well the United States worked for those first 100-odd years until the establishment of the Federal Reserve, and look at how terrible it's gone since then. And the Federal Reserve still is refusing an audit that would show the American people how much these private central bankers have made off of the sweat and work of the American public over the last 100+ years.
So it came to the fact that you need let's say a couple of $1 million that you got to bring in a grocery cart to pay for a bag of groceries. Let's say 2 silver coins might do the trick that couple of $1 million would do for a bag of groceries, right? Would happen if you had that kind of inflation?
Well, it happened in the Weimar Republic where people, had to take entire... I mean, the currency was so worthless, people were using it for toilet paper, and they were using it, as fuel for their stoves. I mean, that's how... remember what happened in Zimbabwe not too long ago? They had a $100 trillion note.
Supposedly in Venezuela too. So, but did the Germans did they also have silver and gold at that time that they could?
Oh yes. But the governments always go for the silver and gold, and they want the people to be happy with ink and paper.
And the stupid Germans went up and gave it away, huh?
Yeah, they got suckered well and truly. Okay, well, listen, Mark, I'm going to have to let you go. We got to take another break for commercials. Our phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252, and we will be right back.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356, or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Extendivite 7-herb formulation is approved to help maintain cardiovascular health and help lower blood lipid levels in adults. Extendivite is made from hawthorn, garlic, valerian, cayenne, bilberry, ginkgo biloba, and milk thistle. The herbs in Extendivite have been chosen for their ability to help with overall health. Many people have reported improved energy and stamina in just a few months. If you think you could feel just a little bit better, then Extendivite may just be for you. Extendivite is an all-natural supplement. Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com. That's HEARTDROP.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hey, honey, I'm home.
I grabbed a newspaper on the way home. Look at all the news today.
Don't you know that all you're going to get in the newspaper is propaganda, twisted news, and false information?
Honey, this is a national newspaper. It has to be true.
Ha! For some reason, the majority of the population believe anything the mainstream media tells them. The newspaper doesn't give out the important attention of what's happening to this country and news that affects our daily lives. Say, does that newspaper mention anything about the North American Union?
No, not that I can see.
I didn't think so. You need to go to www.newswithviews.com, where truth is more important than political correctness. That's www.newswithviews.com. Hey, don't throw that away. We can use that in the birdcage.
Okay, move over. Let me start reading newswithviews.com.
The truth? Read all about it at newswithviews.com. Newswithviews.com, where reality shatters illusion.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And welcome back to our show here for the last segment on this Thursday night. And we're going to go to Jim in Brooklyn. Hello, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, how are you? Regarding the gold business, they gave $35 an ounce for the gold in 1933.
Yeah, that was set by Bretton Woods.
And it went up pretty quickly. And I want to mention something else. At that time, they had Secret Service is an arm of the Treasury Department.
It still is.
At that time, they had Secret Service agents stationed at the bank safe deposit box rooms. And they actually aggressively confiscated gold out of the safe deposit boxes when people went to their boxes. And another thing, they exempted jewelry. And I remember my great-grandmother, who was pretty wealthy, she had a children's clothing factory.
Mm-hmm.
She had earrings and a necklace made out of $10 gold pieces. It was pretty funny because she had pierced ears and her earlobe started drooping.
Yes.
One more thing real quickly with regard to this. In the Bible, I think I might have mentioned this on your show or somebody else's, when Joseph started collecting all of the food for Pharaoh for the famine that was coming.
Yes.
He collected all the food, and the people of Egypt started turning in. The first year they turned in their crops, they sold their land, they turned in their livestock, their gold and silver, so that with the food, Pharaoh was able to collect the entire wealth of Egypt.
Yes.
With the food, because that trumps everything.
Okay, well, remember, Egypt did not really have coinage per se until the Pharaonic, when the Alexander the Great came on in and the Ptolemies took over. They brought the idea of coinage from Greece, from Macedonia, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what they did have was sacks of small sacks of silver and gold that were sealed. With like just chunks of gold and silver. They were weighed out and they were sealed, and those passed as currency. Exactly what you said. Exactly right. They used little sacks of gold nuggets and silver nuggets.
Okay.
Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to say about those things.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call, Jim. Vaughn in North Canton, you've got very little time. What's on your mind?
Yes, how are you today? You guys were into the coinage, and I was thinking about, I had inherited eagles. Are you familiar with the silver eagles?
Yes.
Well, 2020 was the last year for that series, and there was 35 of them in a series, and I inherited about 18 of the ones. And
Okay.
I was wondering if it would be worth it to buy the rest of them, because I can get them roughly for about $40 a piece.
Well, I am not the person. I'm not the person to be talking to about that. You really need to talk to a coin dealer. Okay, Vaughn. I hate to do this to you. I hate to do this to you. We're at the end of the show. The music is playing. Call back in tomorrow and we'll pick up this discussion. My apology to those of you who did not get on the air. Please call in earlier in the show so we can get to you. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Please spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. Apparently Jeremy from Kentucky and Patrick Slattery are filling for John. I just got that message here. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.